I never thought the thing that would finally push my mother over the edge would be my wedding. Not a divorce, not a scandal, not even one of my murals getting painted over by some bitter city official. No. What truly set her off was the fact that I dared to plan a wedding in the backyard of the home Elias and I had built together from scratch. When I told her over the phone, there was a long pause, exactly 4 seconds of silence, and then she scoffed. "A backyard wedding, Courtney? What is this? Summer camp for barefoot hippies?" I almost laughed. Almost. Because I saw that reaction coming. I knew her well enough to anticipate the thinly veiled disgust. But expecting something doesn't mean it doesn't hurt like hell when it actually happens. It wasn't about the venue. It never is with her. It was the fact that the entire idea didn't revolve around aesthetics, optics, or social media bragging rights. No chandeliers, no 200-ahead-plated dinners, no orchestras or fancy embossed napkins, just string lights, home-cooked food, and the sound of people who genuinely loved each other. And to her, that wasn't a wedding. It was an embarrassment. She didn't even bother pretending she might come. There was no, "let me check my schedule," or "keep me posted." Just that same cold judgment that had defined our relationship for as long as I could remember. One by one, the RSVPs from my family turned into polite excuses or radio silence. No cousins, no uncles, not even a courtesy text from my father. The only one who responded with a real yes was Aunt Myra from Colorado, who once mailed me a handmade card for my birthday with pressed flowers inside. Because she knew I liked wildflowers more than roses. I wish I could say I was unfazed. That I was this emotionally bulletproof bride with a Zen mindset and an iron spine. But the truth is, when I hung up that call with my mom, I just sat on the porch for an hour, staring at the patch of land where we'd planned to set up the chairs, wondering why doing something beautiful in my own way was still, somehow, not enough. I wasn't asking for a red carpet. I just wanted my family to show up. But apparently, love without spectacle is invisible to some people. Caroline and I are twins, but you'd never know it unless someone told you. She was always the golden child, literally and figuratively. Blonde hair, pageant smile, and a laugh that made people lean in. I was the quieter one, the one who colored outside the lines and asked too many questions. To my mother, Caroline was the daughter you showed off. I was the daughter you assigned tasks to. I still remember her wedding, like it was yesterday, mostly because I wasn't really in it. Sure, I was there. I was breathing. But I wasn't part of it. I didn't walk down the aisle, didn't wear matching dresses with the bridal party. Hell, I wasn't even seated with the family. My job was to hold a clipboard, earpiece in, circling the venue like some underpaid wedding coordinator, making sure the caterer didn't run out of shrimp cocktail and the violinist didn't start too early. I wore flats I bought for $12.99 because my heels broke the night before, and by the time Caroline had her first dance, my toes were bleeding. The only photo I ever saw of myself from that entire weekend was a blurry shot someone posted on Facebook, where I was in the background carrying a tray of champagne flutes. Someone tagged me and captioned it, "The staff did a great job." I didn't bother correcting them. I just liked the comment and moved on, because deep down, I knew my role had been assigned a long time ago. I was never the daughter in the spotlight. I was the one who made sure the spotlight didn't flicker. And it wasn't just that wedding. It was birthdays, school plays, college graduation. Caroline got roses. I got logistics. She got the proud tears, the custom scrapbooks, the My Daughter the Bride stories at book club. I got silence, or worse, indifference disguised as support. "You're just not really a center of attention kind of person," Mom would say with a sympathetic smile. Like it was a blessing, not a boundary she'd built for me. But this time, this wedding? I wasn't handing out champagne. I wasn't adjusting someone else's veil. I wasn't waiting behind the curtain to be told when to clap. This time, it was my name on the invitation, even if half my family pretended not to see it. And I wasn't looking for their applause. I didn't need a ballroom or a string quartet or a 5-tier fondant monstrosity. I just needed Elias. I needed our backyard. I needed the wind to catch the paper lanterns I strung up at 2 a.m. with blistered fingers and zip ties. And for once, I needed to stand in the center of something without apologizing for taking up space. Let them scroll past. Let them gossip. Let them judge my RSVP count like it was a report card. I wasn't planning a performance. I was building a memory. One that wouldn't require retouching, staging, or parental approval. One where I finally got to be more than a blurry figure in the background. I didn't walk down an aisle lined with imported orchids. There was no organ music swelling in the background, no ring bearer in a tuxedo too big for his tiny shoulders. What we had was simpler, quieter, but somehow more honest than anything I'd ever seen in a bridal magazine. I wore a soft cream, linen dress that Elias made for me with his own 2 hands, after watching dozens of YouTube tutorials and stabbing himself with pins more times than he'd admit. It wasn't perfect. The hem was uneven, one of the seams puckered slightly, but I've never felt more beautiful in anything else. Not because of how it looked, but because of what it meant. Every stitch was a small declaration. I choose you. I build with you. I believe in you. Our guests, only about 20 of them, sat on mismatched chairs we'd collected from neighbors and thrift stores, each one tied with scraps of ribbon dyed in earthy shades of rust, sage, and dusty rose. The long wooden table was a Frankenstein of reclaimed pallet boards that Elias sanded for days until they stopped splintering. And the food, God, the food, was nothing you'd find on a catering menu. It was homemade vegan chili from our next-door neighbor, roasted rosemary potatoes from my best friend, a salad of wild greens that Elias and I had picked the morning before from the trail behind our house. No servers, no name tags, just bowls, passed hand to hand, plates refilled without asking, seconds offered like love notes. There was no officiant, no, ladies and gentlemen, please rise. When it was time, Elias took my hand and led me to the tree we'd always called ours, a giant maple that turns fire red every fall. The guests fell quiet, the way people do when something sacred is about to begin. And then we spoke. No scripts, no crowd-pleasing jokes, just raw, unpolished words that cracked and trembled because they were real. I told him that he was the first place I'd ever felt safe to take up space. He told me I was the first person who ever saw all of him and didn't flinch. Somewhere in the middle, a breeze rustled through the paper lanterns we'd hung the night before, and a few of them spun gently, like the trees themselves were nodding in approval. There were no mothers dabbing tears with satin gloves, no staged photo ops with flower walls or mirrored signs saying Mr. and Mrs. And you know what? I didn't miss a thing. Not the family that didn't show, not the fake smiles or the forced traditions. I looked around that garden, that homegrown DIY miracle of a wedding, and I saw nothing but people who chose to be there. People who showed up without needing to be impressed or appeased. And in that moment, I realized I hadn't lost a family. I had finally built one. River had shown up with nothing but her old Super 8 camera and a shoulder bag full of film rolls that smelled faintly like dust and ambition. She didn't ask for a shot list, didn't stage anything. She just wandered, quietly through the backyard like a ghost with good timing, catching moments the way a net catches falling leaves. I didn't even notice half the time that she was filming, until days later, when she sent me a Dropbox link with the subject line, "This is yours now." I opened it late at night, curled up on the couch with Elias half asleep beside me. Andy mate. Seconds. That's all it was. No voiceover. No dramatic music. Just the ambient noise of wind through trees, laughter echoing off wood fences, the soft clink of glass jars as we toasted with homemade lavender lemonade. The opening shot was Elias, wiping his palms on his pants nervously. The next, me tying a ribbon around a jar of wildflowers with trembling fingers. Then us, barefoot on the flagstone patio, dancing beneath paper lanterns swaying like stars pretending to be close. It wrecked me. In the gentlest, most complete way, I watched it 3 times in a row before I posted it. No hashtags, no trending. Audio. Just a quiet caption, October 2nd. Just love. Just home. I figured maybe a few close friends would see it. Maybe a couple of neighbors would comment something sweet. Instead, by morning, my notifications were on fire. People I didn't know were resharing it with captions like, "This is what love looks like," or "Proof that beauty isn't in the budget, it's in the meaning." By noon, a wedding design blog had messaged me asking if they could feature it. By dinner time, it had been picked up by 2 digital magazines. One of them titled the article, "The Most Beautiful Mountain Wedding You've Never Seen." That's when my phone rang. Caller ID. Mom. I stared at it for a while before answering. A small part of me hoped, naively, that maybe she'd softened. Maybe the video had shifted something. Maybe she'd say she was proud, or at least ask if I was happy. Instead, her voice came through clipped and tight. "You should have told me there would be press. I'm getting messages. People are asking why we weren't there." No mention of the vows, no mention of the way Elias looked at me. No, just damage control, just concern for how she looked, how this had made her appear to others. I didn't say much. I let her talk. I let the silence between us say more than I ever could. Because the truth is, if she needed a camera crew to realize my wedding mattered, then maybe she was never really meant to be in the frame at all. The first text came from Caroline, of course. Because it's always Caroline who swoops in after the fact, like she's just now realizing there was a party she wasn't invited to, except she was invited. She just didn't bother replying. Her message read, "Wait, that was your wedding. Video. If I had known there were cameras and actual press coverage, we totally would have come." I stared at the screen for a solid minute, rereading it over and over, like maybe the words would rearrange themselves into something that sounded remotely like regret. But no, just disappointment. Not because she missed my vows, or the hand-sewn dress, or the backyard we lit up with our bare hands. No, she was disappointed she missed her shot at being seen. Then came the text from my mother, short, sharp. "You made me look like a bad mother. People are asking. I should have been told." There, it was. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "The video was beautiful." Just rage disguised as righteousness. I could practically hear her tone through the punctuation. The way her voice pinches when she feels the narrative is slipping from her control. This wasn't about me getting married. This was about her image. Being left out of the highlight reel. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have words, but because I had too many. And I knew none of them would land the way I needed them to. Because what do you say to people who only care after there's an audience? It was suddenly so clear. They weren't mourning my absence from their lives. They were mourning their absence from mine, now that other people had noticed. They weren't. Grieving a missed connection. They were scrambling to rewrite history so it didn't reflect poorly on them. To shift the shame, reframe the story, pretend the silence they gave me was somehow an accident and not a deliberate shrug. But I remembered every unanswered message, every brushed-off detail, every time someone said backyard like it was a curse word. They weren't sorry they didn't show up. They were sorry that the world noticed. It's funny. They wanted no part of the raw, real version of me. But now that version was getting attention, admiration even. They suddenly wanted in, as if showing up late with a well-worded excuse could undo the fact that they chose absence when it counted most. And honestly, that kind of regret isn't mine to hold. I didn't invite her to make peace. I invited her to understand. River had Arranged for a quiet screening room in the back of a local indie theater. Just 2 seats, a small monitor, and no one else. No popcorn, no background music, no distractions. Just the truth, stripped down to its bones. I texted my mom the time and address. She replied with a curt "fine." She showed up 10 minutes late, of course, wearing pearls and a blazer like she was attending a board meeting, not the intimate undoing of the narrative she'd built for years. I didn't hug her. I didn't offer small talk. I just nodded toward the chair. She sat with her arms folded tightly across her chest, as if bracing for a personal attack, not a wedding film. River hit play, then left the room without a word. The footage started in silence. Not the artificial kind, but the kind that feels like someone's holding their breath. The first minute was Elias nervously fiddling with his cuff, then me laughing, as I tried to tape down a lantern that kept swaying too hard in the wind. Then came the ceremony. No voiceover, no cheesy piano soundtrack. Just wind, laughter, birdsong, and that one moment where Elias took my hand and whispered, "You make me feel like I came home." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my mother, blink, slow, deliberate. Her jaw flexed, like she was trying to hold something in. By minute 10, her posture had softened. By minute 15, she was leaning forward slightly, lips parted. At minute 18, I saw it. A single tear slid down her cheek. She wiped it away quickly, like it had betrayed her. When the footage ended, I let the last frame hang there. Our backyard, lit only by the soft glow of the lanterns, empty chairs still warm from people who'd actually showed up. She didn't speak for a long time. I could feel her trying to gather words, assemble some version of concern that didn't sound like guilt. But I was tired of silence dressed up as composure. So I asked calmly, "Do you care that you missed it? Or do you just care that everyone knows you did?" Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. She didn't answer, and for once, I didn't wait. I stood, walked to the door, opened it. "Thanks for coming," I said, not coldly, but with a finality. I hoped she understood. She hovered for a second, like maybe she'd say something real. But instead, she just nodded, clutched her purse tighter, and walked out. And in that empty room, watching the screen go black, I didn't feel vindicated. I felt free. Because some people only see your worth when the whole world does. But by then, what they missed is no longer yours to give. A few months passed, no follow-up texts, no apologies, no half-hearted invitations to catch up over brunch. Just silence, which, honestly, felt more honest than anything we'd exchanged in years. Then, one afternoon, there it was. A small cream-colored envelope sitting on our front porch with no return address. My name written in that familiar cursive, the same kind she used to sign school permission slips with. My stomach sank the second I saw it. Inside was a photo. Old, glossy, the edges slightly curled. It was from Caroline's wedding, the one where I'd been nothing more than moving furniture in a dress. And there I was, blurry in the background, carrying a tray of appetizers, face turned half away. Forgotten, cropped by proximity and intention. But on the back of the photo, in that same ink, were just 8 words. "I didn't see you that day. I do now." No signature, no explanation. Just that. I sat on the steps for a long time, holding that photo like it might burn through my fingers if I stared too long. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I didn't even feel vindicated. Because the truth is, I didn't need her to see me anymore. I slid the photo into the back of our wedding album, right behind my favorite picture, Elias spinning me under the paper lanterns, my feet bare, my head thrown back in laughter, the two of us lit from underneath by the warm glow of 100 handmade lights. That's the version of myself I choose to remember. Not the background extra in someone else's fairy tale, but the woman who wrote her own. That was my wedding. And I did it on my terms, not for validation, not to impress, and definitely not to be seen by people who only show up when the cameras do. I did it because love doesn't need staging. It just needs to be real. If this story meant something to you, if you've ever felt like the forgotten one, the quiet one, the one no one expected to shine, go ahead and hit that like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe for more stories like this. Because sometimes, the quietest voices carry the loudest truths, and they deserve to be heard.